Welcome to Open Conversations with International Coaches. I'm here with Shelly Ann and Cass. I'm Steve, and it is April 25th, Thursday morning here. It'll be maybe afternoon or evening or nighttime, wherever you are around the world. We're glad to have you with us. This is a little bit different today. Facebook threw a curve, and actually checking back, I think the curve didn't just happen this week. It happened a little bit earlier. I've got to check on a couple of the streams that were supposed to be where they were supposed to be. Facebook has eliminated the ability to stream from an outside source into a group, at least for StreamYard. I haven't checked Zoom yet to see if that will still work. Today I'm streaming into my profile instead of my group. I've left a message in the group, so I hope some of you are finding your way to my profile. Shelly Ann is streaming to a page, I believe, and Cass is streaming to a page instead of the groups that they used to stream into, and we'll probably all copy or at least link the YouTube video into the places where we used to be. So some of you will be watching this in replay. We haven't done it yet, but it'll be done when you're watching it. So I always love the time paradox there when we're talking about the replays. So let's jump in today. We have this wonderful topic called the principles of saying it right. And that is so important. And we have an expert on this topic with us today. So I'm going to start with my own introduction today, because I want to end up with Shelly Ann, because she's the one who's going to take it away as the expert. So my name is Stephen B. Henry, and you can call me Steve, as I said. I'm known by many online as the coach's coach. I'm a multi-niched coaching practitioner. As an experienced online presence consultant, a business success guide, and personal development mentor, I bring this holistic trifecta together for my clients in a single toolbox. My many years of experience across the spectrum of personal and business life and my sincere commitment to ongoing learning inform my approach and my work-life ethic. And by understanding that success is a journey, not a destination, one's goals become much more attainable and exceedingly more enjoyable. As I often say, the time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. And with that, I want to ask Cass to jump in and share who she is and what she does.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Steve. I'm Cass J. Henry. I'm an abundance coach working out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I offer my services both in person and virtually. And as an abundance coach, it's my job to assist my clients in altering their perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. Together, we'll discover the power of tools like affirmations, habit creation, mindset work, goal setting, experimentation, and journaling, just to name a few, with an overarching goal to achieve a more harmonious balance in life. So if you find yourself feeling stuck and focusing on everything that's going wrong in your world right now, reach out. Let's set up a discovery call and see if we're a good fit, because I'd love the opportunity to show you the abundance that's already in your life right now. You can find me on cassjhenry.com, and I'm going to skip over Steve and pass it directly to Shelly Ann. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Cass. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I am Shelly-Ann Edwards Barron from Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm a gratitude guide and habit coach. And today's topic, saying it right, is actually the first part of the gratitude strategy that I share with my clients. Now, the whole thing started for me because when I turned 40, somewhere thereabouts, I don't remember the exact age, um, it's almost as if, my eyes kind of opened and I started looking and seeing, okay, what am I doing? What do I want to do? Why am I here? Where do I want to be? Why is that feeling like it's so far away? And I realized afterward through reading that this happens to a lot of people. And then what we do is that we add things. We add actions, we add relationships, we add and add and add, thinking that this is how we're going to fill the gap. And then when we do that, we end up in overwhelm and we end up feeling distressed. And so, through my own experiences and trying to find something to help with that overwhelm and distress and absolute exhaustion, I came across gratitude. And what that has done for me is that it has allowed me to be able to still continue pursuing my goals, but also to pursue them with joy, which is what I really wanted, to experience a joyful life. And so now, as a gratitude guide and habit coach, I help my clients do the same by helping them say it right, by managing their self talk, say it loud, by making gratitude tangible, and by saying it always, by developing that habit of gratitude, that daily habit. And so when Steve mentioned that I am an expert in this area, it is through my own experiences, lots of reading, and working with clients that I recognized what I call four principles of saying it right. And while we were chatting before coming on, and I was sharing and we were chatting about it, Cass said, that sounds a lot like affirmations and writing an affirmation. And so these principles, I apply them to gratitude, but they are also applied to affirmations and other aspects of saying it right. Because the idea of saying it right is really about using your words to have a positive impact in your life and those around you. And in order to do that, of course, first we have to recognize what our language actually is, and then work toward making our language more, I would say, effective. I use the word positive because for a long time I have felt as if my words were negative toward me and to others. And so none of this came simply or easily because at first I didn't even recognize that it was an issue until I started practicing the gratitude, which I do first thing in the morning. I write down three things that I'm grateful for. And I try to mix it up sometimes, be general. Sometimes, when I say general, I mean different aspects of my life. But what I realized is that being specific and direct and precise, and it really comes down to being intentional about the gratitude and how I speak about myself and my situations. And so let me just share the principles. I think I can put it in the comments. Um, I'm hoping that is going to fit. So the principles of saying it right that I work with is keep it positive, keep it precise, and I'm typing while I'm speaking. That's why I'm kind of hesitating. So let me just say them out. So keep it positive, keep it precise, keep it present, and keep it personal. And so in making what we do intentional and what we say about ourselves and to ourselves intentional in that way, that's going to help us really activate gratitude, because gratitude is, as we've discussed in other conversations and previously, we looked at gratitude as a bit more than just saying thank you. It is a principle to live by. And then saying it right, we can follow these, I guess, checkpoints to take a look at our own self talk and our own language to determine, am I actually saying it right? Am I actually speaking love to myself? Am I actually speaking compassion? Am I actually speaking truth to myself? And so I'll give an example of how sometimes, especially with gratitude, we can not actually fit within this context. Once I was speaking with a friend of mine, and we were talking about gratitude and all these things, and she said, "Yeah, I'm grateful, and I express gratitude all the time." So I asked her, I said, "Well, share some of what you do with me, because I'm always looking for new ways to do things and express the gratitude." And she said, "Well, she would tell herself things like, I'm grateful I'm not where I used to be, and I'm grateful I don't have the drama to deal with as I used to deal with, and I'm grateful that I am getting to where I need to be. And I thought about that for a bit, and I said to myself, well, it might sound like if it's positive, but then when we make statements like that, what we're really focusing on is the lack. We're not focusing on the abundance and what exists. We're focusing on what is not there. And that is part of the issue with saying it right. Many of us phrase our words and our self-talk to focus on what we're missing or what the problem is. And sometimes we might have statements like, we're doing something and we make an error, or it doesn't go according to plan, and we say things like, I'm such an idiot. That as well, that's self-directed talk. And are you an idiot if you make a mistake? If things don't go according to plan, does that mean you are an idiot? And there's a difference between saying, I made a mistake and I'm an idiot. It is a fact that if this is not what you intended and you did something you didn't want to do, or you didn't do something that you wanted to do, you can call that a mistake. That's the definition. But is doing that making you an idiot or making you a fool or making you stupid? That's where the differences come in. How do you speak about yourself? How do you speak to yourself? And what do you acknowledge within yourself? So I want to open it up now. I think that's the foundation. We could probably go through what it means to say it positive, present, precise, and personal. And what are your thoughts on, saying it right, Steve or Cass?
I can definitely jump in. Uh, so the thing that irks me, that really gets me into the idea of saying it right, is actually the positive and negative, the use of positive and negative, calling emotions positive and negative, calling situations positive and negative. Um, I think, I feel like um, they don't encompass the spectrum of what can actually be happening. They truncate it into positive and negative, and things like. I liked the way you said, make it intentional, make it more effective. I like the word beneficial. You're looking at things that are going to benefit you. Because especially when it comes to emotions, there are no positive and negative emotions. Emotions are just something that we experience as humans, and the ability to experience a full spectrum of emotions is what allows us to feel fulfilled in our life. Because things like anger are often seen as negatives, but they can be righteous anger that propels you towards seeking justice. It doesn't have to be negative to feel that emotion. Pain can encourage you to go see a doctor and solve whatever's going on with that pain. That doesn't mean that it's a negative thing. Sadness can encourage you to write a poem. It's a creative outlet. And things like joy, we often call that positive, but joy in some aspect could lead you into what's the word I want to use? Overindulgence.
Mm-hmm.
You could
Mm-hmm.
feel joy, but then you could overindulge. Well, is that positive or is that negative? Where do they sit on that line? So one of the words that I came up with as I was trying to put this into language was beneficial. Instead of is it a positive thing that you're doing? Is it beneficial to you, your life, your future, your dreams, your goals?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my personal irk with that, with
Yeah.
positive and negative. I think that it doesn't get specific enough.
Yeah, and I think listening to what you're saying, to me, when I say positive, and this is something that we discuss, when I say we, I mean I discuss this with my clients. What do you consider positive? And then we have that same discussion that pain, positive outcome, joy can have a less than beneficial outcome as well. And so I to keep the phrasing brief, and I really was going for the alliteration: positive, present, precise, and personal. Um, but I hear what you're saying, and I think I I embrace the word positive because I want to look at outcome as opposed to initial experience. And that's why I consider positive and beneficial to me mean the same thing within this context. So when I say, for example, keeping my language positive, then I mean focusing on the beneficial outcome. So that's how I would define positive. And I think it's like you said, it is how we view the words and how we view the language. And I I do feel you and hear you about the um, overuse of positive and what can come across as really toxic positivity if we're not careful. And so for me, rather than changing the word altogether, I discuss it and talk about it so that I can still use it with clients. That's how I approach the concept of positive and positivity.
We've spoken before about perceptions and projections, and the words themselves are not necessarily positive or negative. They are words that refer to something and or some action, and it's how we perceive it and how we use it, how we embrace it, how it informs us going forward. And when you were talking originally, Shelly Ann, it came to mind just how amazing the older Disney movies are. That the messages that were embedded in them, that were part of the moral of the story, so to speak. And I recalled that there was a certain rabbit, I think his name was Thumper, who said, "Say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean." So there we have a play on words, mean, and it really embodies what you shared with us there. And I share a story with my own clients in terms of the law of attraction and how the subconscious mind works. And I've studied both of those, for many, many decades. I started when I was in my mid-teens before I even knew what synchronicity was, what the subconscious was or what the law of attraction was. And I started to see and perceive the occurrences, and I study them. And it is so important to embrace the, um, I would say positive, but I take your meaning, Cass, as well. The We need to embrace that interpretation of what we do, because the subconscious mind only works one way. And when we feed it the wrong things, when we put the wrong spin on words that we use, the subconscious acts upon them. And it's not so much that it acts upon the words, words are meaningless to the subconscious. It acts upon our mental thoughts, our interpretations of those words. We feed that mindset into the subconscious, and then it churns it around and does its thing. That's a whole other episode or five, but it does that and gives us back feedback and actually controls many of the things that we do. And so I use the story of a person to think of yourself at home, visualize having a place where you've got a kitchen with a counter, where you prepare things, and there are patio doors just to the edge of the kitchen that open out onto a patio, a deck perhaps. And there's, your partner out there with the barbecue flipping hamburgers or steaks or whatever, and you're in the kitchen getting another pitcher of lemonade, one of those big Kool-Aid style pitchers with the smiley face on it, and you're getting that prepared with lemonade and you're getting 6 clean glasses on a tray and you pick the whole thing up and it's a little heavy and the glasses rattle as you take a step and you're walking towards the patio door, and the patio door, the sill is level with the floor. There's no problem here. But you say to yourself, I hope I don't trip. And as you walk out onto the deck, your ankle turns and the whole tray of lemonade and glass goes flying onto the deck and shatters and spills and makes a mess. But you said to yourself, I hope I don't trip. How come my mind and my body let me down? Well, because the only thing that the subconscious focused on was the word trip, and your visualization, even if only for a split second, of you tripping. And so it gave you exactly what you asked for. And this is what we do if we don't say it right. I'm so glad the floor and the deck are level and I can walk calmly out to the table with this tray. When we start thinking, and that was a longer phrase than I actually intended, we'll find the shorter phrases, but when we start thinking and saying to ourselves, feeding our mind with those beneficial, positive outcomes, the subconscious then works in our favor. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. But when we talk about affirmations, I see so many people doing affirmations wrong. I want to be successful. I want to have more income. No, I am successful. I have better income. You know, I want to improve my life. No, my life is improving day by day in the positive, in the current present tense.
And precise. And I think
Precise. Yeah.
I want to interject there because being precise is one of the areas that I had to step back and really review and think about as well. Because when I say my life is improving day by day or improving every day, what exactly do I mean? What is the improvement? What am I um, pointing out? Because improvement is a concept, and it's a fairly large concept that to different people means different things. And so, what exactly am I embracing when I say my life is improving every day? Um, am I able to drink more water because that's what I want to do? Am I able to wake earlier or, schedule my time differently? What exactly is the improvement that I'm grateful for? And for me, that took a lot of thinking and reading and conversations to really understand the significance of that. Because the way I see it is like, when you have a dartboard and you are aiming at the dartboard, are you just going to throw it at the dartboard and wherever it lands, you're happy it actually hit the board? Or are you aiming for a specific spot that this is where you're aiming for? The bullseye, that's where you get the most marks, that's where you get the most points, that's where things are most beneficial to you. And so, are we aiming for that, or are we just happy and feel lucky that we hit the board at all? And so I think being as precise as possible makes a difference in the way we say things and as part of saying it right as well.
Yeah, since we brought up affirmations, I wanted to pop in there and I think we talked about this probably when we did affirmations, but
Mhm.
something that I learned about the 7 major chakras and their corresponding affirmations is that it's not just I am, I am, I am. There are other, active words that you can use in there, and so the root chakra, the base, the connection to the earth is I am safe, I am free, I'm in my body, that type of thing. But then you move up and you're into the sacral, and it's I feel
Mhm.
confident. I feel creative, I feel capable.
Mhm.
Those are different than just I am, because you can be capable but not feel it because you're in your anxiety in that moment. So feeling it is something that you want to work on if that's what you're working on.
That's
Go ahead.
important to understand. And what I said moments ago was first person positive, first person present. Um, I am and I feel it. It isn't just the verb to be. I am,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
it can be
Yeah.
many,
Yeah.
many other verbs that. But the key is to be in the present, in the moment, in the first
And
person.
And
Yeah.
and
personal.
specific to what you and personal,
Yeah.
yeah, to what
Yeah.
you are needing in that moment. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, I speak, sorry, I'm jumping through a couple of them. There's the throat, which is where I speak from. I speak loving kindness, I
Mhm.
speak expressively, that idea. Or the I see from the third eye would be things like I see progress, or I see my
Mhm.
progress. I
I
see others
found, let me
clearly.
interrupt a second. I found the
Mhm.
graphic that you had shared with me, so I'm going to share it.
Oh, lovely. Yes, that's it. Yeah. And then there's also the crown chakra, which is I understand or I know. So ideas like I understand your boundaries, or I understand patience, or I know compassion. That sort of idea. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can work with saying it right, other than just I am or I do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think for me, when I was, doing the research and the practice and working with clients and so on, I came across that's the four principles. That's why I created those phrases, keep it positive, keep it precise, keep it present, and keep it personal, because within those, that's where I see the interconnection, and it's not just one thing, it's not just one aspect of the whole situation. So we do, oh, and I think I put keep it person, but that means keep it personal, so let me fix that. But the idea is so that we have these four, and when we investigate what exists according to these four, am I keeping it present, or am I talking about past or future? And some people have challenges with that because they say, well, I'm not where I want to be. And the issue isn't necessarily, okay, so you want to have a car and you don't physically have a car. Can you say, I'm so grateful for the car that I have? Now, there's a lot of metaphysics and conversation that we could have, and with time and all of that. But the way I look at it is, um, there is a lot that we can be grateful for within a situation, even without that individual thing that we believe we must have. So I want a car and I want to be able to drive, but when it comes to your transportation and mobility, are you grateful for what you actually have right now? Because yes, in the grand scheme of things, having your own personal transport might feel a lot more beneficial than having to take the bus, but you can take the bus and you are still getting to where you need to be. And so there are still moments of gratitude within that. And when I think about saying it right and keeping positive, precise, present, and personal, what I also think about is, um, infusing situations with gratitude so that we don't come from a position of lack when we are expressing ideas, and when we are expressing the gratitude. We really should, as Cass always says, focus on the abundance. What exists for you right now? And for me, that is like the foundation of being present. What exists for you right now? Um, it could be that it didn't have to exist. There are the situations that could be a bit worse. There are things that could be better, but what exists right now can still feel like it works in this moment. And it's something that I've been really working on in terms of not falling into the future, statement, because I had a tendency to say, um, you know, I'm happy that I'm becoming, and I'm happy and grateful that I'm getting, as opposed to what I actually have. And so it was a process for me.
So my question to you, as you spoke through that, I sort of tried to write that myself. Would you want to be as precise as, I'm grateful for the use of the bus, or could you bring it out to I'm grateful for my freedom to travel or my freedom of movement? Is that precise enough? And then it encompasses the potentials.
Yes, I think you can do all of the above, actually. And in my experience, all of the above works more profoundly than just the one thing, because what it does is that it shows us that there are different aspects of the thing to be grateful for. So I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to use public transport. I'm grateful that I can access. I'm grateful that I have the freedom to travel. I am grateful that um, the system worked today. I am grateful for, and you could list any number of things in terms of what it is you're actually grateful for. And I feel like going through that process allows us to see that there is so much more than what we initially think, as opposed to I'm grateful, I'm getting a car. I'm grateful that I have the funds that I could put toward a car. I am grateful that I am saving and I have the ability to save. And so there's a lot that can be included around there if we look at the details, I guess is what you can call it.
Being precise, I am grateful that I have savings for a car. We can define what those savings are for, being a little more precise. I'm reticent to speak very much about compound affirmations because it opens the door for doing them wrong. And so
Mhm.
many people do that. I saw one coach teaching affirmations as, um, I'm grateful for the money I have, not poverty. And
Yes.
that compounding the positive with the negative focuses your mind equally on both, and they tend to cancel each other out. And we do that a lot. It's a human nature thing to do that. We have to overcome that. We're still struggling with our minds after all of these, millions of years of developing the current human. We still have a lot of trouble with those chemical processes and synapses that go on in the brain. Um, we're only just beginning to really understand it, discovering that there's a whole second level of process going on, uh, discovered in the last 10 or 15 years. I took psychology back in the 70s in university and was looking for answers and realized the reason they call it a practice is because they don't have any answers yet. And so, this whole, I mean, right now we have this amazing breakthrough of life coaching and holistic coaching that's going on. It's a tremendous growth industry. There's room for so much more of it, and we are at a point where there's so much to learn. So many things are being discovered. I often talk about learning your craft. And Shelley Ann, you've just laid out an amazing tour of how you learned your craft, how I refer you to as an expert. I have a friend who, a bit of a wag, he says an X is a has been and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So we don't want to be an expert, but actually, you are. And it used to be, it was considered, it took 5 years to become an expert. You had to study, for 20 to 40 hours a day. I mean, 20 to 40 hours a week. It would be nice if we had 40 hours in a day. I could use this. But 20 to 40 hours a week for 5 years to become an expert. And today, we know that with the fast paced world that we live in, if you're studying something for 5 years, by the time you would be what you call an expert 5 years from now, that thing you study might not even exist, probably doesn't even exist. Where it took decades for buggy whip manufacturers to be phased out, and then it took about a decade, for VHS tapes to be phased out. Now it can take literally weeks for brand new processes to morph into something else or be phased out. So, we need to be precise. We need to be speaking correctly. We need to be saying it right in order to get it done within the time frames that we have available. And some people get overwhelmed by that. I get very excited by it. I think it's a wonderful time that we live in. We have access to so many things literally at our fingertips or under our thumbs. The world is available to us, however you want to look at it. And the more we can bring that down to the present and positive and precise, we get all of those things going, and all of a sudden we have this marvelous outcome because we're doing it right, we're saying it right, and we're speaking up. And it's I mean, I have a long history before me, and I've done a lot of things, and I've been there when so many things started, and I see where they have come today. What a wonderful, amazing journey I've had, but what an amazing opportunity I have today.
Yeah,
And everybody does.
you mentioned becoming overwhelmed with some of these practices, and for me, in the beginning, it really was overwhelming. And for many of my clients, when I explain these things and then they look at themselves and realize where they are and where they would like to be, they see the gap. And when we focus on that gap, that's when overwhelm really sets in. And so the practice of gratitude helps us to recognize that we have stuff going for us right now. We can be happy right now. We can change our perception and perspectives right now and not have to wait until we get all the words right to be happy. And so, one of the aspects of saying it right for me that keeps coming up is that learning and that constant, retrospection and looking at what is happening and making tweaks and adjustments as we go. So when I talk about saying it right, it's not a matter of like, a goalpost that's there. And when I get to that point, I am saying it right. Is really the process and the attitude toward how I speak to and about myself. That is what really we're working on getting right. Having those principles of compassion and principles of love and learning and trying and the effort, that is where we really mean to the right in that statement. That's where it is. It's not necessarily about a word that I have to use, and if I use this word it's going to be right, but if I use a different word it's going to be wrong. It's really about, am I using the words that are beneficial to me now? They might be tomorrow or next week, based on my experiences, I might learn something that I realize, hey, there's another word that I can use that works better. And then so I use that word then. And then that could constantly keep happening. And that is the joy in it for me, that there's always something new and exciting and more and effective, and I can enjoy what I'm doing now and still look forward to joy in what's coming at the same time. And that's what I really love about the concept of seeing it right with these different perspectives attached to it.
I wrote
You
down a
mentioned,
quote that you said just before we went live, that gratitude is affirming what is abundant in your life right now. And I think that just encapsulates the whole concept of saying it right. Gratitude is affirming what's abundant in your life right now. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. Go ahead.
no, that was worth sharing. Thank you for that. We have these conversations while we're waiting for the hour to get started in our live presentation, and some of the most amazing things come out in those few minutes, and that's one of them. It's definitely worth sharing. What I wanted to jump back to, Shelly Ann, earlier on, you talked about you journaling. Every morning you do stuff, and there's so much power in the act of writing. The words go down on paper. It's okay to type it into your computer or your phone, and keep a digital journal that way. But it's so much more powerful if you actually use the old method of longhand writing. There's something about the process in the brain that takes the thoughts and extends them to your hand. And I'm left-handed, so I'm using my left hand here to gesture. But to write out the words on paper. Yeah, exactly. And I wrote a book on something that's called Morning Pages, and it's not my origin. In fact, it's Julia Cameron. I always forget her first name. Julia Cameron. She had a book called The Artist's Way, and it was basically a book on journaling for artists. And it was excellent. And she coined this phrase, morning pages, because she believed in writing pages in the morning, actually writing them in longhand. And when I heard about this, I got very intrigued, and I researched into it quite deeply, enough that I wrote a book of my own thoughts on it and methodologies and various interpretations. And I just want to mention that anybody who's watching this live or in the replay, if you get a hold of me, so many ways on the internet to actually do that. StephenBHenry.com is one of my websites, easy to remember. It's my name. And go there and contact me through the contact page and ask for a copy of the book. I sell it, but anybody in this space now or in the future, I'll give you a copy free of charge, a digital copy that you can download. I don't want you to sign up for a newsletter or a mailing list. No opt-in required. No email address. I'll just give you the file. I think free should be free. But it'll give you a different perspective, I think, on the typical traditional journaling. There's just a little more nuances in it. But whatever you do, journaling is a huge, powerful tool.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about it because it gets these thoughts materialized into writing, and somehow you have better control over them, better hold on them. So saying it right is also a methodology. Now, it won't be for everybody. It's going to be different. Your way of doing it will be different than my way of doing it. But my book just explores a number of other ways that you could consider. Maybe journaling hasn't worked for you, or you've just never felt it's the right thing, or that it's comfortable for you. Maybe a different perspective would help. And so
Hmm.
I want to share that. Because I know, Shelly Ann, you actually have a journal. Um,
Yeah, I was just about to
uh,
mention that, and I thought,
yeah,
the last
please.
time we spoke about this, it was probably a little over a month now.
Well, more than that, actually, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And
still
so
working
I
on it.
do, yeah, well, it is complete. Except for one thing that I wanted to add to it, and I haven't been able to get back to it. So I'm at the point now where I'm thinking, how important is that one thing? Because I really do need to release it. I have a colleague of mine, I get a message like every 2 weeks, is your journal out yet? I'm waiting on it. So
Remember,
yeah,
first edition, second edition, third
yeah.
edition, people do make changes to
Yeah.
their books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what had happened is that when I had first done it, in using it, I realized that there was something in it that I missed, and I put it in my own personal copy, but I hadn't gotten a chance to update. So I'm gonna what is today's date? Today's the 25th. All right. So yeah, I'm thinking of when, but my goal was to have it done before the end of the first half of the year. Um, Certain things needed to be completed by the first quarter, and I've done most of that. So yeah. And when it comes to saying it right, now I'm going through all of these things. It might sound like I'm rambling, but I want to make a point about a lot of this. Um, when it comes to things that are left undone and things that we feel like we should have done, and we use those words like I could have, would have, should have, um, this is something that I worked through, and I'm at a particular point now, and I'm still working through it because it's a recurring theme. And I am learning how to show compassion to myself. And the words that I use now toward myself are much more compassionate. And when I first started with gratitude, a lot of it had to do with addressing issues of productivity and the overwhelm that I was feeling with being productive and being um, non productive, is what I used to feel. And that entire process of recognizing, okay, what is productivity? What is actually holding me back? Things that I can do, habits that I can develop. It's progressing, and it has progressed quite a bit, and I'm really pleased. And while I am pleased, I do see the gaps still, and so I am working on the language that I use around those gaps and around the things that I do. And so the idea of saying it right and, you know, keeping it positive, present, precise, personal is not just about those statements, whether affirmations or gratitude statements. It's not just about those statements. For me, it is a way of life and how I speak to myself on an ongoing basis. I pay attention to that. And so in the past, I might have said, you know, gosh, I haven't done this, and when am I going to get it done? And then the anxiety would start to roll out, and then eventually lead into depression because I'm still seeing the gap, and the anxiety is just highlighting the gap. And now I am able to say, I understand that things happened. What can I put into place instead? If I'm giving myself a deadline, what are the systems and structures and support that I have to meet that deadline? Because giving ourselves a deadline arbitrarily without considering what it means to move from where I am to where that deadline is, that is an aspect that tends to derail progress and productivity quite a lot. And so being able to, as you said, Steve, write it down, for me, it was huge because then I could go back and read it in the moments when I'm frustrated and overwhelmed and all I could think about is the gap. I can go back and read these things and remind myself that, hey, in this moment, I'm not feeling in the best of moods, on the most pleasant moods, but look at all of this. I can still be grateful for all of those things because they're still present now. Even though I wrote them yesterday and last week, they existed then, and the majority of them still exist now. So when I can't think of it, I go back to the journaling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A saying, talking about getting the should have could haves out of your life. Somebody that I worked with at one point used the saying, "Oh, you're shooting the bed right now," and I'll never forget that. And that helps me every time that I start to think of, "Oh man, I should have done this." I think of that saying, and I'm like, "No, wait, what am I going to do? What's my next step? What am I doing to fulfill this goal now, as
Hmm.
opposed to I should have, and now I'm
Yeah.
going to languish or what's the word I want to use? I'm going to get stuck in that should have, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to
Hmm.
do anything else because I didn't do it then. So how could I possibly do it now?
Yeah.
Well, no, now is still now, right?
Yeah.
And
And what are my
I
options?
also yeah, yeah. And I also wanted to plug when it comes to saying it right, I'm a writer. I really love writing short stories. And one of the things that I've put out is a sort of a little bit of a twist on a prompt journal. It's called The Missing Chapter. And it's a bunch of little vignettes that you can then add to. So if you're having a really hard time finding the words, finding things that you want to say, in a creative way. Here's a little book that you can come in, flip to a page. There's a little story starter or ender or middle, and you get to write on that same concept whatever comes next for you. So you can find that on Amazon. It's called Catastrophe, the missing chapter, and you can also find links to that on my website, cassjhenry.com. Just a little plug there. You guys plugged some stuff. I'm going to plug one too.
Good for you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. As you mentioned it, you know what came to mind, Cass? We're not alone in any of this, and we are. Um, we really can embrace and reach out, and we don't have to have all the answers. If we don't know where to start, get Cass's book, and there's a beginning, so there's something for you to work with. If you want more information about how all of these things work and the background of it, because that's the way you process things, get Steve's book, and you're getting his book for free. So and there's a lot of other stuff out there. And one day, through my process, I am going to say, get my journal, etc., etc. So we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to get to the point where we think, I don't know where to start, so why bother? This thing is so overwhelming, nobody can help me. It is a fact that we all go through challenges, we're all working on it, we're all dealing with things as best we know how, and sometimes our answers can be enhanced and our solutions can be enhanced by a conversation with someone. And so reach out to someone, professional, friend, coach, listen to a podcast, read a book, look at a video. And just by being here and looking at this video, it's a starting point. And so part of saying it right,
Oh,
saying
we
it
lost Shelly
loud,
Ann. There she is.
which is the, what's that?
And maybe it was just my end. You froze for me.
Yeah.
Ah,
Me too. Yeah, you froze for just a second. We didn't lose anything though. Carry on.
Keep
okay,
going.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, once you get started, and Cass, I always come back to that saying and that quote that you gave. Um, do something.
That isn't
I mixed
nothing.
it up. Yes, do something that isn't nothing, and I feel like that is the essence of everything when life begins to feel overwhelming. do something that isn't nothing, and that moves toward saying it right. When you listen to your language and you think, "Oh, I'm speaking about myself like that," what should I say instead? What are my words supposed to be? Well, your words are supposed to be what works for you. You might need to chat with someone to figure out what that is, and that's okay. And I feel like that is a huge step toward saying it right when we're able to reach out and get that support to do what we want to do.
Absolutely. I think that that's a really good place to start and end almost. Just the idea that you are working with language and you are taking that step from wherever you are to what's next, doing something that isn't nothing, that smallest, infinitesimal, it doesn't matter how big thing, to be saying it right
Yeah.
for the next step.
Yep. And I think looking at the time, that's probably also a pretty good place to close off this particular discussion and decide what we're going to work on next week.
Oh, you're
What have you
both
got,
looking at
Cass?
me, aren't you?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's you, Cass.
Um, yeah, you know what? I didn't have a topic come out of today for me, but I can look at our potential topics. One of the things that we often talk about, and I'm not sure how we would approach it, but I'm not always sure how we would approach anything, is doing a focus on the subconscious.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought of that when Steve had said that's a whole other conversation or several when you mentioned the subconscious. Um, do we want to tackle like an aspect of it or first look?
well, first look is always a good place to start. And there are some first principles in dealing with your subconscious. That's the kicker about it, is that each of us has to deal with it on our own. We can get instruction, we can get ideas, and we can discuss, through an hour session, a lot of those ideas. But the dealing with it is entirely on our own. Nobody can talk you through it. You can get therapy, you can get a coach that can help you and support you with so many things. But when it comes to talking to your subconscious, somebody outside can feed your subconscious. We can talk about that too, but you don't have any control over that. When it comes to the control, it's got to be you. So it's a good place to start.
Mhm.
The
Look at it,
subconscious mind. Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Yeah.
what it
And
is and how we can master it.
yeah, so because I'm thinking my first thought was conversations with your subconscious because
Mm,
I feel like that is something that is a good place to start. Do we
mm,
speak to our subconscious directly? How do we reach the subconscious? How does it speak to us um, along those lines?
Mhm.
Because
yeah.
I feel like something like that really does flow out of saying it right. Because
Yes.
the whole concept of saying it right, what are we feeding our subconscious?
Mhm.
What is it, growing on?
We
And
often
that
talk
can come
about
out of that.
we often talk about self-talk and positive self-talk.
Hmm.
Um, and really, that is the first layer, the simplest aspect, most basic aspect, to be clear, is self-talk. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that we can look at in an hour that'll be kind of fun.
All right, awesome. So subconscious next week.
Sounds great.
And
And I
that's
think
the
that
hour.
that's the hour. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Thank you, everybody, for being here, and especially the discussion, the intriguing discussion today. That I'm going to want to go back and listen to this video. I do that sometimes to get the third party, when I can actually watch it and have the overview instead of being the participant. It's kind of an interesting experience, and I feel the need for this one, definitely. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next time.
Bye, everybody.